What is it that separates human beings from simple beasts? Is it our ability to create? Is it that we imagine our world not as we see it, but as we want it to be? Or is it that no beast is as capable as we are of such an enormous and careless level of destruction to others, to each other, to the world around us? Is it our propensity to form community that makes us different? That even in the face of an apocalypse, we come together, we look out for our neighbors, we protect, and we survive? Maybe it's complicated, but we are more complex than words can capture. We are people, not beasts, not gods. Most of us not kings or queens, just human beings, greedy and giving, heroic and selfish, full of imagination and full of ambition, inherently flawed. We tell stories. We tell stories to cope with a terrifying world and to remind us of where we have been, what we have learned, and then we share those stories with each other. And that's how we survive. Our story today begins in the Criterion of Balic, its great gladiatorial arena. The low seats are for commoners, and they are filled to the brink as the brutal sun bakes the stone seats that they sit on. Among the crowd are a number of individuals wearing white ceramic masks, some of them smiling and some frowning, all symbols of comedy and tragedy, Balic's Guild of Theatrics. Moving through the crowd is a skinny young man wearing ratty clothes, his name Van, an illegal wizard and a friend to young Marilla, and the subject of Praetor Rysar's recent investigation. Above the commoner seats, we join Praetor Rysar, Council Akasha, and the Turtle Cronkwall in the royal box. It's a lavish suite with cover that protects it from the sun above. It's adorned in fine silks, with a buffet of olives and sweet-smelling meats served alongside a tea made of nectar. Nearby the royal seats are the less crowded seats of House Akacha, nearly as fine as the royal seats themselves. And there stands young Marilla, the next and the last in line to become head of Akasha's ancient and proud merchant house. Welcome back to Dark Sun, friends. Let's go around and briefly remind folks who we're playing, what they look like right now, and maybe what they're doing as we rejoin them in the scene. And I would like to start with Marilla.
Well, Marilla is a fairly young, lean half-elf, dressed in very fine patrician robes that seem fitted to somebody else, and has an extensive knotted bracelet around their wrist. They are a scion of House Akacha, and at the moment, they just recently spotted their friend Van down below, as well as all of these people with the masks, and are trying with all their might to figure out what on earth is going on without attracting the attention of...
Speaking of, let's go to Cronkwall, who's with Akasha and Rysar in the other box nearby. What's Cronkwall look like right now, and tell us a little bit about them and what they're doing.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm playing Cronkwall. He's got a quarterstaff that is like bent at the top with a woven dream catcher. He's a turtle, by the way. I don't think I told you that. Cronkwall's a turtle with a staff with a dream catcher on the end of it, and I think that is probably leaning up on the chair behind him as he is sitting uncomfortably in a chair that is not built for him. I'm assuming that maybe if there's arms in this chair, that he is maybe inches from resting the bottom of the shell on the seat itself because it's kind of wedged between two arms. But he's still trying to sit and be content as he can. I think right now he's picking some clay out of the webbing of his hands as he is eagerly waiting and nervously looking around to see what is the entertainment is here in the Criterion. He has heard what it is, but he's not excited to watch it. But he's hoping to at least give it a try. So he's anxiously looking around and kind of checking in with his friends every once in a while. But he's eager to kind of get this over with in a way. Nice.
And nearby Kronkwall is his recent companion, Akasha. What about Akasha, Christina?
Hi, I'm Christine Ariel, and I'm playing Akasha. And at the moment, Akasha is draped in a long gown with a black cloak over the top, with the cloak pulled back and down. And I'm also playing Laguerre. Akasha is an elven bard, and Laguerre is an elven bard, and Akasha is an elven cleric. Distinction. But yeah, we are. I am very annoyed because there's too many people, and even in this box for patricians and noble peoples, there are too many people in my personal space, and I'm not a fan.
And nearby Akasha is Praetor Rysar, the Praetor of the Arena District. He who is in charge of the Criterion, or at least making sure the Criterion remains safe. Welcome back, Toby.
Thank you very much, Don. I play Praetor Rysar Rathomir, a tall, lean elf. Not lean in the traditional Dungeons and Dragons lean of muscular lean, just pretty lean, skinny, gangly, tall. Wiry, but not wiry strong. Any of the gatherings that Rysar attends, he's one of these types who isn't really watching what everyone else is there to watch. Although he sort of pays homage to being a spectator, he couldn't really care less about the blood sports going on in front of him. He's there for the appearance of being there and to speak to people and to see who else is there. He's a praetor of the people. And yes, he's very concerned about the appearance of these masked people, because the last one of these he saw tried to kill him in his home. So he is on a heightened alert, and he thinks it's all about to go a bit Game of Thrones.
So that's where we'll begin tonight. The sandy floor of the gladiator arena below, it's large enough to display a full battle. And at the center of the arena is a set of 5 stone steps that lead down to a smaller square floor, even below. At the center of that floor is a large chitinous shell, sort of similar to Kronkwall's, but much larger, and it's stained a dark reddish brown with numerous small hairs that are sticking up from the joints of the shell's scales. If anything lives inside the shell, it's not visible from above, it's just waiting there. And as your gaze, Rysar, and your gaze, Marilla, kind of goes out through the crowd, and you're all waiting there in your various boxes, you can hear the crowd begin to get more energized. And one of the 2 gates of the arena floor below, the smaller gate, where human or humanoid gladiators would come from, creaks open, rattling as it rises up. And you all see, one at a time, a group of 5 thri-kreen, which are mantis humanoids with 4 arms and 2 legs. Their arms and their legs have an extra set of joints, so they're able to bend and stretch in ways that most humanoids cannot. They also tend to be very tall. The shortest of these is probably about 6.5 feet tall. The tallest of these gladiators, 8 feet tall. And they're not wearing any clothes, but they do have this sort of chitinous body armor. They're each wielding crude spears tipped with bone. And you can see on one of their arms, each of them has hooked what's called a chachka, which is almost like a tri-bladed boomerang. That's a throwing weapon that is pretty widely known to be a favored weapon of the thri-kreen. And they skitter out just through the gate, and as soon as the last of the 5 is outside, the gate is pulled back down below. If you were to look, you could see a large half-giant wearing a loincloth, no armor, with some sort of animal skull half placed over the top of his head above the bridge of his nose. He's the one pulling the gate back down. That's going on as we rejoin the scene, and my question to all of you, any of you, is, what do you do?
Have we seen the masked people appear now, Don?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you're the one who spotted them first at the end of last session. You just see them disperse throughout the crowd. Some of them are moving about, some of them are sitting down. I mean, there's a good deal of them. And I'll give you this too, because it's been a couple of weeks since the last session. You also visited Rysar, the Gilder's precinct, where all the shops are, all the handmade goods are generally made and sold. And you know that a large number of masks had been sold from the precinct.
Mm.
They were actually at one point giving them out to people.
The shop was giving them out for free.
That the shop itself got bought out of them,
Right.
and that somebody was distributing them amongst the people.
Did I just hear about this somebody, or did I see this somebody?
You just heard about them.
Okay. I am on top alert. Are there any other praetors or half-giant guards or similar in my close proximity, say 30 foot?
So outside of the royal box, this hallway that kind of leads back out to the exit, the higher up, more secretive exit of the Criterion, are 2 half-giant guards. You would know that the animal trainer is inside probably one of the 2 gates, and the other gate would also have at least 1 guard.
Okay. I would like to... so during these weeks, Rysar he's been quite busy, but he's been spending some time to pursue his studies of the way. And he's going to attempt to utilize his powers for the first time in a significant way. And he's going to focus on his center, his nexus. And he's going to attempt to project his mind's voice into the minds of all of the half-giants, including the animal trainer if he's close enough, and say, "This is Praetor Rysar. The arena is in danger. The masked people are potentially assassins." I'm then going to attempt to do the same, but to Merilla and to Lord Acacia. Lord Acacia is with Merilla?
No, I think Merrill is by themselves currently.
So I'm going to, again, focus on the nexus within myself and attempt to project my thoughts into Marilla's mind and say, Lix Marilla, it is not safe here. The masked people are assassins. This is Rysar. I'm then going to turn to Cronkwall next to me, and quite tired from my mental exertions, whether they worked or not. I'm going to say, Cronkwall, I believe we are in danger. Prepare yourself. The masked people.
Okay. As he reaches behind and I think fumbles, reaches to try to grab the staff and then tips it with his claw as it falls into his hand. And he slowly brings it around.
All right. I will watch them.
What's the range, Rysar, on your ability?
30 foot.
Let's see. So I'm gonna say that you can reach. We'll say that you can reach Marilla, and you can reach the two guards outside of the box, but probably not the animal trainer and any other guards that might be down in the arena below. It's just too far.
I suspected. Do I think the half giants might have enough wits about them to sort of get help, or are they pretty stupid?
I'll give you this because this is you've been expanding, you've been practicing, and this is new to you, right? Using the will and the way, your psionics in this way. And as you reach out to the two guards nearby with your mind, you just see flashes of images in your mind. One is of a group of like belly dancers at a local tavern, and the other is of just like a gigantic roast, right? Just a very juicy looking roast. And so you get those images when you touch their mind briefly. Whether or not they heed your advice or your concern, you'll have to wait, I guess, a couple of moments.
Fantastic, thank you.
Let's jump over to Marilla.
Yes, I look over to Rysar, nod a little to acknowledge receipt, and as if nothing were wrong, with tremendous composure, I'm sure, start to gather up my robes and make my way towards the exit of the box, like I'm heeding the warning and definitely not going and looking for Van.
Perfect. And is Marilla's goal then to circle back around to the lower seats where the common folk are?
Yes, they're going to try to melt into the crowd a little bit themselves and find him.
Go ahead and give me a stealth check, and then we'll give it a minute and we'll come back to Marilla and see how they're doing down there.
I would love to. I don't know. 12.
Okay. All right. Right around the time that Marilla leaves, two figures step out of the royal box behind you, Rysar, Cronkwall, and Akasha. It's a large, muscular Terry, which is a ratkin, a rat folk, but much stronger looking than most, with an eye patch over one of his eyes, wearing just dusty leather armor, and a very tall Thry-Kreen beside him, who wields a pair of chakrams, which are circular throwing or hand devices. These are made out of metal. And Rysar and Cronkwall, you would recognize them as Taruk and Ntak. Taruk is the head of House Jarko, who runs the Criterion, and Ntak is his bodyguard, let's say. And behind them, one of the giants steps too, and as the three figures move into the royal box, making it even more crowded, Akasha, the Taruk smiles at you, Rysar, and he says, Praetor Rysar, what is this? What's the cause for alarm here?
The masked people you can see moving about the audience are a threat.
He sort of looks down beyond the edge of the box to the low seats beyond, where there are, maybe a dozen or a little more than a dozen of those individuals just mixed amongst the crowd. And he looks back to you with sort of a strange expression in his eyes. Those masks are commonplace in the city. Many people have them. Why do you think they are dangerous?
The last person I saw wearing one had broken into my home and attempted to assassinate me. I then investigated, and it appears that someone has been purchasing these masks and giving them out. I do not know if all of these people are dangerous. However, I'm certain that at least one of them is, and they are using the rest as a cover. I urge you to beware.
You can hear the crowd calling out anxiously for the fight to begin down below. And Tara takes a deep breath and looks aside to Ntak and says, we're happy to provide extra protection down below, Praetor, but this is business. The combat must happen.
You are the head of the most venerable House Jarko. I could not possibly ask you to stop in your legitimate trade in the city of merchants. All I ask is that you keep an eye out, protect yourself, protect the other patricians and nobles that are here, and beware in case it gets too out of hand.
He chitters over his shoulder, and Ntak, the Thri-Kreen, looks down to him for a moment and then turns and exits, along with that looming half-giant guard that was standing behind. And Taruk himself goes over and he takes a seat right down next to Akasha, where Akasha's standing. He kind of spreads out a little bit, and he says, I'll make sure that the guards keep an eye on them and move through the crowd.
Can you make sure that your leg stays in your own space?
Roll me an intimidation check.
Rodent spreading.
So fucking rude. That is an 18.
He continues to smile, but he does lean forward and slowly stands back up, and he says, forgive me, my lady.
No.
It's just when you own the Criterion, I'm used to sitting wherever I want, but for you, I would gladly move.
Can you do it faster?
He steps away. At a medium pace, we'll say. And he circles back around, back to Rysar. He looks over to Kronkwall as well, and he says, is there anything else that we can do, or may we move on with the event?
We are in your house. Taruk. Is it pronounced Taruk?
Taruk.
Taruk. We're in your house, Taruk. I am merely the praetor in attendance. I am here to serve you.
Very well. Then serve me by relaxing. You're safe here. And I would very much like for our new friend to the city to enjoy the show and see what the Criterion is all about.
Not sure if I will, but I'll try. They're moving.
As he's referencing the masks.
There seems to be one breaking off to get a drink. Okay, they're coming back. So far, they seem safe.
Then let us relax. Taruk, have you met Cronqual? I presume you have met Lady Akasha.
Has he met Lady Akasha before? Do you think, Christina?
Yes, and he's still annoying.
Yeah.
We've met before in this same setting. So this isn't the first time that I've been here, and it's not.
And then
the
he's like
first
plopped
time.
down.
Yeah, last time there was just shoes in your face the whole time.
He's like just too familiar,
Yeah.
and it's like borderline disrespectful because ew. Yeah.
Which
Such
Rysar
close
absolutely
friends.
loves that Akasha is getting wound up by this guy. So, Cronqual, please allow me. This is the famous ex-gladiator, Taruk, champion of the ring, and now the head of House Jarko and the owner of the Criterion. Jarko, this is Cronqual, a fantastic turtle at arms who has aided me in several investigations where the strength of a half-giant was required, and it turned out a turtle was just as good.
I had the good fortune to meet Cronqual just a couple of days ago. It's good to see you again, my friend.
And you as well, Taruk. I'm eager to see the show.
Yes, it should begin momentarily. And I hope once you see it, you'll understand the value and what we do here. I imagine that the people would be very entertained to see you amongst our gladiators.
They look like they're in pain.
He looks down over the edge of the box, and you see the 5 Thrycreen are still like skittering around. And they've sort of formed 2 lines, a sort of makeshift formation for battle. All of them looking on and waiting towards the center of the arena below. None of them moving forward right now, all of them with spears in hand. And he says, I assure you, our gladiators are the best trained in the world and are the best paid and cared for in the world.
Not them. That.
And he points to the chitinous shell.
Why is it so angry?
That would be the Gage. The Gage does not know anger. It does not know happiness. It only knows hunger and the things we want most. It is a fascinating creature.
It's fascinating that a Terry knows so much about the inner workings of something that is foreign to the Terry.
Well, it is my job. You see, we capture beasts from all around the world. They are brought here. We study them. And I must know everything about them.
Well, if that's all they know, then let's hope they're good at it.
I assure you, they are. You'll see soon enough.
Cronqual's not amused.
Yeah.
He's not This whole thing is very uncomfortable for him. And I think he's just going to try to ignore Taruk and focus on the fight. I think until the fight starts.
Taruk will go to stand side by side. Rysar, he's not quite as tall as you, but much broader than you, Rysar. Still waiting for that horn to sound and the fight to begin. He just sort of leans casually over to you and asks, "Are you planning on challenging for a different office this year, or are you happy with where you're working now?"
Rysar sort of looks a bit strained mentally and sort of takes in a bit of air, a bit of a sigh, and then attempts once again to focus on his nexus in order to send a psionic message to the Terry. It is not something I would like to speak of right now. However, I have had some thoughts which I would happily discuss with you at a later time.
He looks back out over beyond the box down to below and simply says, "As always, I will be your most devoted friend, Praetor, regardless of what you decide."
That is good to hear. And of course, as ever, if there is ever anything, and I do mean anything, I can do for you, Tarek, you need but let me know. And I say that, I speak that rather than use the way.
And he leans over the balcony, continuing to look down below, just barely tilting his head over his shoulder to reply, "Be careful what you wish for, Praetor." I'd like to cut away there and move down into the crowd and rejoin Marilla. So as Marilla, you go through the back tunnels of the higher seats, which do have stairs that are guarded by a couple of simple local militia down at the base of the stairs, and you can move freely in and out. And once you get down, there are these much wider halls that lead out to the bottom floor of the Criterion, where those rising stone steps are and where the rest of the crowd is. As Marilla gets down below, what are they doing?
Well, they are going to see if there's the equivalent of that one jacket that someone left behind and totally meant to get and didn't, so that they can kind of go Jasmine mode and move through the crowd a little less conspicuously, given that they are dressed up a bit, and that would make them distinctive. So if they can swipe that from there, they're going to start to make their way toward the crowd along the trajectory where they saw Van go.
We'll say easily, even with just a 12, they're able to find like a sand-blasted yellow cloak that they can easily, throw on over top of what they're already wearing and make themselves small in.
Good. So with that, I'll make my way back in toward the crowd.
And it is moving through, much larger figures, people in the crowd who are going about, grabbing food, coming and going. It's not uncommon for the Criterion people to enjoy a fight or two and then leave between, or just hang out for a bit and grab some drink and then leave and go back to their homes or elsewhere. So there's constant movement in and out of the arena. You're pushing your way through. Go ahead and give me a perception check.
9.
So with a 9, you don't see Van immediately, but you do see just to your right one of those figures. It looks like a large, rotund maybe human by the height of him, could be a mall possibly, wearing one of those gladiator or one of those theater masks. This one, a tragedy, so the frown mask, and just like simple commoner clothes, a tunic, very, very much avoiding the sun by standing right next to the stairs, so they're blocked by the rise. So as you're moving out to the proper, they're just sort of in the shadow there. You can see the mask.
Well, as game does in fact recognize game, I would then, noting that person's presence, look to some other shadows where I might have been tempted to sneak. Good quality shadows. And see if this is part of a trend of some kind. Like, what is going on? This is...
Yeah, so this is the only masked figure that you see in the immediate vicinity, as you kind of look to the nooks, the corners of the halls and the adjoining corridors and out to where the stairs rise, which you're almost there now. You're almost to the stairs proper. You don't see any other figures like that figure, and that figure is just sort of leaning back against the wall, arms crossed, head sort of down beneath the mask. You can't really see their expression. You can't even make out their eyes.
But looking downward through the mask.
It would appear so, yeah.
All right. Not looking for a signal directly then. I don't know how much of these people in masks I've seen, but I'm just going to move very carefully. Surely, though Rysar's warned me of danger, they're not going to stab every single one of us. So I have to try to get to Van. I mean, what if they go after him?
You continue into the crowd proper, and again, like if you had to push through people before, now you're in the sea of bodies. And these are people who've been in the sun for hours, many of them. It's a hot day. The smell here is overwhelming. Would Marilla look along the exits? Would they climb up the stairs? Where do they think they'd be most likely to find Van?
Based on the way that I saw Van moving, I want to go to the perimeter of where that vector would sort of end up.
Okay. So having seen them kind of along the bottom area, not on the stairs proper, but walking around maybe towards one of the exits. Not this exit, obviously, because you just came from there and didn't see them at least. Go ahead and make me one more perception check. And I know we had Rysar made a perception check earlier too, so we'll resolve both of these at once.
13.
13. So Rysar, you spot, as you're looking down after your conversation with Taru, you spot Marilla first with your 23, and moving towards Marilla, you see kind of hidden behind a larger man, Van, the boy. And I'll give you with a 23, Rysar, Van's moving very slowly. Doesn't seem to have much of a purpose.
How far away did you say?
Well,
Roughly?
they're down at the bottom of the seats below you. So for you to get to them, it'd take a minute. You'd have to go all the way around and down.
What's just say if I had another power at my disposal that was longer than 30 foot, roughly how far away as the
Let's call
Casectral flies?
Let's call it 300 feet.
Oh, that's too far. That's too far. Okay. I am just going to keep an eye on them because my old friend, the Terry, has told me to relax. So I'm going to keep a hawk's eye view on everything that's going on. I want to keep an eye on Lix Marilla. I don't know why they've gone down there. I'm going to keep an eye on Van, and I'm going to keep an eye on the masked people. And I also have an eye in the back of my head looking at the entrance to this royal box. I don't, but I am looking behind me. I got a nat 20. I'm looking everywhere.
So Marilla, you don't see Van until the figure right in front of him that's blocking him turns to begin to climb up the stairs, and then you almost run right into him by happenstance.
Van, what? Are you okay? What are you doing here?
Marilla, what are you doing here?
I saw you. I haven't seen you in a while. I had a vision that something was wrong with you. I know that sounds ridiculous. It's not the point. Are you all right?
I'm fine, Marilla. I've just been busy with work. I'm working now at the Caesar's garden, preparing for his event.
Then, where have you been? We were supposed to meet.
They needed me immediately. This is my first time I've been back. It pays very well. It could change my entire life.
No, of course. I understand that's important. Yes, I thought we were... You sure everything's all right? May I make that insight check?
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead and roll an insight check.
I'm sure everything is all
Is that a 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element of surprise here. The entire situation is kind of surprising, but to his benefit, when you ask that, he manages a small smile and he says, I'm fine, Marilla. It's just I have to be responsible and grown up now. I'll see you soon.
Of course. See you soon. Watch out for the people in the masks. I heard they were a little dangerous.
You shouldn't believe everything that you hear.
Do you know them?
No.
Right.
Excuse me, I have to go now and return to work.
Of course. I'll see you around, Van.
He doesn't respond to that, but he does begin to move past you.
Right, I tried to keep him in my eye line, and I want to tail him, but also it is very dangerous right here. So I think I'll see how long I can maintain a respectable tail, a nice distanced tail. But if it has to break off, I would rather be posted up to see a little bit more of what's going on here, since I suppose my friend doesn't want to stay posted up.
Okay. As you follow, Van doesn't move, maybe a little bit faster than before, but not too fast. Doesn't look back over his shoulder at you as you're following. But it's just a couple of seconds after you begin your tale that horn sounds out and the crowd explodes into a roar. Everybody rises up to their feet, and for a moment, you lose Van. Make me one more perception check.
That's cocked. That's a 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this energy of everybody rising, roaring as the fight is about to begin. And for a second, you lose Van, and then you just happen to see them take an exit, moving between two bodies. Of course, there's many people between the two of you, but you at least see which exit they take. And at that moment, everyone else, as the horn sounds out, those 5 Thry-Cream near the gate, they immediately stand up. It's almost in unison, almost like a hive mind. They stand up and begin to shift forward, scuttling across the ground towards the center of the ring. There's a set of stone stairs that go down towards where that large red shell is. And as they approach it, Tarek is just leaning out and watching. You can see Rysar that the half-giants and Ntak have joined the crowd, and they're just kind of moving through and checking things out. And I see a thing. And Rysar, where is your attention once the fight starts? I'm going to ask this for everybody.
Not on the fight. I am especially aware of if there is an open door exit to the box that we're in, and if there's a closest masked figure to us, then it would be divided between them and the door behind me.
Okay. And all the masked figures are below. There's none up on your level. They're with the commoners. There's one maybe like almost right below your box. They rise up with the rest of the crowd. So when everybody else stands up and cheers, that figure stands up and cheer. They actually move the mask. They don't take it entirely off, but it's like they raise it up from their face so that their voice can project outward, and they slide it back onto their face.
With that sweet nat 20 on the perception, am
Sure.
I noticing any of the masked figures who are acting suspiciously? Because I think that it's, hey, have these free masks, wear them at the thing. I might even give you a ceramic piece or something. And then, of course, one of them's going to be on a hit. So I'm trying to keep an eye out using my old patrician senses to see if
I'll say give me an insight check for that one, I think.
Yeah.
And we'll hold on to that result.
That's a 3 on the dice.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. So far, none of them have acted suspiciously. At least they can tell. But you can continue to keep an eye out. Let's move over to Akasha. So as the fight begins and the crowd is getting rowdy, what's Akasha doing?
Growling. She's very, very annoyed at Tarek's presence. And as if everything else isn't enough, she's just finding herself kind of getting annoyed to the point of not wanting to be involved in the situation at all.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to politic and go and talk to people. She also doesn't. So.
She wants to be effective, but she doesn't like the people that she's surrounded with currently, or at least
she's thinking to herself that she's borderline ready to not even attempt to run for office because, like, it's just a lot. Like, I get it. Run for office, carry on family name, all that fun stuff. But these people are insufferable. Yeah. Hi. I'm assuming he's still right there.
He's like leaning over the balcony, watching as the fight's beginning, as the Thry-Cream below are starting to move towards the center of the arena.
And now she's really annoyed because he's not even paying attention to her. Like, she's annoyed by him. And he's not even, like, the decency it takes. He has none. So I'm going to walk up and I'm going to hit him in the back of the head. Like, just slap.
Just a slap. I'm not going to make you roll. Well, you can roll if you want to actually deal damage.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. All right, that is a 14.
Okay. So we'll say that that's enough since he's unawares, and you slap him in the back of the head pretty hard. What's your strength bonus?
Do I notice this, Don?
0.
I would say this is 0. So it's a solid hit. It's probably not gonna cause any wounds. Yeah, I would say this is pretty noticeable. Right now, there are only 4 of you in this box. And he's standing at the edge of the box, like looking over. And Akasha walks up and the back of the head. He immediately reaches for the scimitar that hangs at his hip and begins to turn, and then he sees you there. And he lets go of the sword, and he gives you a little bit of a smile, and he says, "Is there something I can do for you, my lady?"
Really? You pull a sword on me?
Old gladiator habits.
Yeah, we get it. You were a gladiator. I got it. You talk about it literally every time we talk.
Well,
So,
that's my
question.
entire life. Yes.
Get more interesting things in your life. Get a hobby that's not like related to your work. How do you have a hobby that's related to your work? And that's like your whole
I
identity.
also do wood carving.
Oh my god, I was a gladiator. Like that's your entire
I make small
purpose.
animals. And do you have any? Is there something I can do for you, my lady?
Oh, are you going to support anyone for the upcoming empty patrician seat? Or potentially empty patrician seat?
I wasn't aware that there was going to be an empty seat. What seat do you anticipate being empty?
Is Rizar within hearing distance?
I mean,
I am
possibly,
staring
right?
directly at them. My face has gone from trying to keep a poker face over the laughs of like the Akasha getting annoyed and him turning and getting his sword. I'm like, oh, this is much better than the gladiatorial ring. And then as soon as Akasha mentions the seat, it's
It would just really mean a lot to my grandfather if we had your support. And I mean, I guess me, whatever. But yeah, is that okay? Like, would you support, I don't know, me?
Well, I'm a very flexible person, so I suppose it comes down to what we can do for each other.
would you like me to give you the box for privacy, Akasha?
Well, I assumed you'd mind your business and we would mind ours over here, and the two shall never meet.
I'll step to the corner.
Pleasure.
I want to know what Kronkwall is doing during this.
He's focusing on the fight, I think.
Okay, we'll jump down to the fight here in a second. But yeah, what else? What were you gonna say, Cord? Sorry.
No, he's just focusing on the fight, and whatever's happening behind him, he is listening to. Sort of. He keeps looking over towards the masked crew, but his focus and attention is 100% in the fight.
Okay. Tarek watches Rysar step to the side, and he says, "I don't want to cause any problems between people that I like, so why don't we say perhaps we can speak more on this, my lady, at the Grand Garden Gala in just a few days. That seems appropriate."
But why would that be appropriate when there are this few people and like I just have a feeling you would ask me to dance and I'm not interested. So I'd rather keep it profesh and just kind of like do this here.
Very well. What is it you propose exactly? What can you offer to House Jarko and the Criterion.
I hadn't thought that far ahead, but I had a conversation last night with my grandfather, and we discussed that it would be great for our house to have us represent our business and our family, and he said something else, but I really wasn't listening. So no, I just think it would be really good. And even if there aren't any seats available, I know that there are some subpar praetors at best that could stand to be unseated, or I don't know, like gangly, wiry looking praetors that just don't have an it factor.
Roll me a persuasion check.
Thanks, level up dice. 23.
He leans back over the banister to look down at the fight that's taking place down below and says without looking back, I'm sure we can work something out. I'll tell you what. Think about it. What it is you can offer me. I'm flexible, and I would love to work with your house and with you, as long as the price is right.
That's subtext.
No, it's literal. You have to offer something. That's how politics work, my dear.
I'm talking to you.
Yes, and he looks back over his shoulders.
So, like, I'd never talk to you. I always am mean to you. So, like, that's me doing something for you. Like, does that how it works?
It's a start, but I'm afraid that I'm a business person, and business is the criterion. Think about it. What your house can offer to the criterion and me. I'm sure we can work something out.
Right. So, yeah. I have your support.
Yes. Let's say yes for now.
Oh my god, thanks.
Meanwhile, Kronquo, you've been the one who's actually been paying attention to the fight down below. And here's what you witnessed during this conversation. The Thry-Kreen circle around these steps on all sides, and they descend down towards the center where this shell, this red and brown shell with hair sticking up from its joint is. And as they get about halfway down these steps, the crowd roars again, and something strange happens. One of the five Thry-Kreen turns and lunges at one of its allies with its spear. Actually drives the spear through one of the arms of its ally, and immediately all five of the Thry-Kreen spring upon each other, specifically this one of them that's turned. And there's a brief and vicious fight for a moment. Sand is kicked up into the air as their mess of limbs wrapping around each other become very confusing to watch. And it's at that point, Cronkwall, as you're looking down, you see the legs, the appendages, the head of what is in that large shell down below extend out pop out, and with its limbs, it rises up into the air. The monster is a large reptile, vaguely resembling a beetle in appearance. Its body is covered by a scaly, rust-orange shell. It's about 6 feet in diameter. And from beneath this shell now protrudes 6 four-jointed legs which end in webbed feet with sharp claws. Its head is a spongy white globe about 2 feet in diameter. And spaced at even intervals around the head in a circle are 6 compound spider-like eyes. A pair of barbed mandibles as long as a man's arm flank 6 finger-like purple appendages that hang out over its mouth, and 3 feathery stalks rise up from the top of its head. It's not something that most people would have seen, but Kronkwall is a wanderer. He's traveled quite a bit. If you'd like, you can make me a nature check. I'll let you know.
Yes, I will roll for that. If I could get it on the table. 17.
Okay. So, especially with the Terry naming the creature to you before, you know enough about the Gaj to know that it's incredibly dangerous, that it has powerful psychic abilities, that the most dangerous weapon it has are actually those feather-like antennas that stick out from the top of its head. That touching and coming in contact with them is how it feeds off of the psychic energy of its prey, and that's what sustains it, not meat, not blood, but other people's actual psychic essence. And you also would know with the 17 that 5 Terry, even if they're trained gladiators, is not a good match for a Gash. This is not an even fight.
In which favor?
In the favor of the Gash.
Mm. I think he continues watching. I think there's some times where during the conversation behind him, he kind of whimpers, and then his hand will go to his face. Then he'll calm down a bit and keep watching. He is still enthralled, but he hates the fact that he's enthralled by it.
Marilla down below, you continue to pursue Van, is that correct?
Yes.
You're along the edge of the bottom of the arena, and when this fight breaks out properly, it's just to your right. You know, you have an eyesight level view of it. It's far enough away that you're not in danger, but you're actually closer than everybody else here, and you see that shell snap up, those legs extend from the bottom, its head come out. It doesn't move beyond that. It stands up straight and locks itself in place as the Thrycreen continue to fight each other. And as you're kind of pushing through to pursue Van, you go to the left where the exit is, the Gaj, and the fight is to the right of you. Right as you get to that point where you would have to turn left, you see the 4 Terry that have survived pull away. One of their allies, the one that had turned against them, dead, broken on the ground, and they immediately snap back to the Gaj in the center. That's what's happening to your right. Down the left corridor, you can see just in the distance towards the exit of the arena, Van moving at the same pace that he was before.
I go to the left. It seems so much more sinister.
Are you being stealthy or are you trying to catch up?
Stealthy, as they say, is healthy.
All right. As you exit from the arena floor, give me another stealth check as you tail Van.
New die. Who dis? Oh, that's better. 27.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're a shadow, so you just slip right through people. They're not paying you any attention. You keep a steady distance. You actually move past that same figure who had been leaning against the wall before with the mask on. The mask is now off, and you can see it's a bald-headed man with a large, sweaty beard, and he's taken the mask off and he's cheering. He's actually like fist pumping the mask into the air as you pass by unnoticed. He's watching the fight beyond. Doesn't seem to notice you, and neither does anybody else for that matter, including Van.
Well, just the one with the mask. As I pass him, I would like to just bump up and see if there's maybe something worth grabbing. Not intent, like, I don't need the ceramic, like, that's not the point. But there's this strange, distinctive thing, and maybe there's something on this person that would be more of a hint.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it should be in my person instead.
It should be in your person. So there's a couple of things you could grab. You could grab their coin pouch, which might have other things in it. Or as they lower the hand and it's down at their side, you could actually snatch that mask out of their hand if you wanted to.
The masks are broadly commercially available. So I think, I really do feel terrible just taking money from people. But there might be something in that coin purse. That would be. I don't know. No, if I had something that I was trying to hide or that I didn't want taken from me, I would not have it in my coin purse in the middle of the arena. So there's got to be the other back pocket or what have you. Just the sort of bump and check.
Absolutely.
Just on an intuition of someone who has never done this before, assuredly.
And they don't see you, so I'm going to give you advantage on this, but make me a sleight of hand check.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'll pick between my 18 and my 19, so I'll say 28.
Yeah, it very, very easily, you bump into them. They only look down to notice you for a moment because people bump into each other in the arena. And already you've gotten into their other pocket and fished out not a coin purse, but what is a simple slip of paper. And paper is not very, it's not like a parchment, right? This is like a receipt that's written on a leaf, basically, and that's what people use, is this very specific leaf to write their receipts on. What languages does Marilyn speak? Human, Elvish. I feel like there's another one too.
Draconic.
Okay.
I figure it's rather
Yeah,
like learning ancient Greek.
So let's say then that what you read, even though this man is human, not Elvish, what you read is scrawled in Elvish, and it's actually written beneath what's a common like tavern receipt, and it just says sundown at the garden.
All right. Well, I think I have a plan now.
What's Merla do next?
They're going to make their way back up to the royal barracks.
You're able to do so unimpeded. You can see Van disappear, stepping down the steps that lead out to the harbor district beyond. And they disappear into the crowd, and you ascend back. Are you going to your box, or are you going to the royal box?
I will go, right before you have to make that selection, there's just a little bit of a hallway. If I might catch Rysar's eye with the head tilt of summoning.
Yeah. Rysar, have you done anything in the meantime before Marilla comes up into the hallway behind you? Because you've stepped back. You're like hanging out in the corner right now, so you'd probably have seen Marilla pretty easily. Is there anything else Rysar has been doing?
I mean, he's still on top alert, so he's sort of being upfront with Akasha that he is sort of out of earshot of their private chinwag, and keeping a sort of eye on the entrance and in the crowd for the masked people. So yeah, nothing extra other than that.
All right. The fight in the meantime continues on, and it's very, very slow at first. The fourth Thrycreen will descend the stairs, and they stab at the legs and the underbelly of the Gage. The Gage, for its part, doesn't really react over much. It protects itself as much as it can with simple shifts, but it doesn't immediately attack and turn. Kronkwall, you would notice one of the Thrycreen drops the spear and gets the chachka that it has and prepares to throw it. And just a moment before it releases, the Gage snaps forward with an incredible speed that hasn't shown before, and its mandibles pierce into the Thrycreen side, and it lifts the Thrycreen up into the air. The other three skitter underneath of it and begin to stab upwards with their spear towards its underbelly. But the Thrycreen that's writhing around in its mandibles, it seems like it can't get out. And with a 17 that you got earlier, I'll tell you that you can probably predict something that might happen next. It's either going to feed on the Thrycreen that's caught in its mandibles, or you also know that the Gage is able, as a defense mechanism, to spray this poison out from its underbelly. And that's how it defends its weak points against predators. And right now, the three beneath it are positioned poorly for that.
Right, yeah, right in its spray.
Ooh. This is disgusting.
And he checks in with his friends. Are they still watching?
That's a good question. So I think Rysar is not watching the fight.
He's not even in the city.
Taruk is watching you as you turn around after you speak that, and he's actually leaning a little bit closer to you. And I don't know, is Akasha watching the fight after her conversation with Taruk, or is Akasha doing something else?
Eating.
I mean, it is a good buffet. There's olives and kink nectar, all of the good stuff.
The
Meanwhile,
fighting is
Akasha's waiting
barbaric.
in line.
I mean, the custom is barbaric. It's gross. I don't want to see people like each other. It's just not worth my time. I only come to these things because I have to make an appearance. But I'm just here. But the food is fantastic. People are terrible.
Cord, I think if you're looking at Rysar, you'd see essentially like a stadium head of security person being particularly vigilant in their job.
Okay.
Tarek.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
he...
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say he's going to continue watching unless you have something.
And Tarek's just going to lean over and casually say, well, if you want to even the odds, you could join.
Don't be so disrespectful.
On the contrary, my friend, I greatly respect those that fight and die. Many of my closest friends have.
For sport, though. Not for survival or protection, but for sport.
He gestures down below to the masses of cheering people and says, with all of the uncertainty that we have in our lives, the arena gives people peace. It is for survival. Perhaps you cannot see it, my friend.
I don't. What I see disgusts me.
See, now averts his gaze or looks towards him now.
I will not take part in your games.
Oh, well. I respect that too. You can't blame me for trying, can you?
I can.
Don, do I notice that Akasha has stopped speaking to the Terry?
I would say, yeah, because the Terry is having a conversation with Cronkwall at this point.
I'd like to move over to Akasha, if I may.
Yeah. We'll bring Marilla into this in a moment, too.
Lady Akasha, I hope you've had a productive conversation. May I rejoin you? Excellent. How are the dates and olives?
You're best. They're really great. Really great.
Excellent. Yes, they do supply us well in the box. Yeah.
Just ask me.
I'm not hungry, but thank you.
Just ask me. You listen to my conversation, and now you want to know what I was talking about. Just ask me.
No, it was a private conversation. I wouldn't
That
possibly.
you were quietly listening to privately. I'm sure.
I would challenge you, Lady Akasha, to stand over in that corner and listen to a conversation in this corner. It's rather a loud setting to be eavesdropping.
So there's no questions that you have for me?
No,
No
none at all.
whispers that you've heard?
I hear many a whisper. But you're a friend, an old school friend, Akasha. If I had a question, I would be up front with you, I should hope. I suppose the only question I might have is there anything I can do to help you with whatever it is you want?
Nope.
Very well. I hope you enjoyed the dates and the olives and the games. I'm going to get back to my keeping an eye out on these fiendish-looking masked types. Akasha, keep us all safe.
You
Enjoy
know
the
they've been
food.
here before.
The masked people.
I'm pretty sure. Am I
Well-
sure? I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking shit.
I mean, the masks are, they're the symbols of the theater guild, so it's not like they're foreign, right? But why would people be wearing that mask at the Criterion? I guess that's kind of strange, maybe.
Maybe you're just taking things too seriously.
Let's hope so.
I hope so, but I just think you should look on the bright side.
Oh, don't
Everything is
stand
fine.
there.
Hmm?
Don't stand there.
You just hear Ronqual in the background as he's talking to the fight down below.
Has Rysar ever seen a gauge before?
After 10 years almost of serving in the arena, I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
It's a rare, right? Like honestly, the Gaj is the kind of monster they bring out when they're showing off.
Mhm.
So I think without an insight check, you would probably realize that this is one of the prized possessions of Tarek.
Yeah. They're monstrous. Yeah.
Does it have a name? Like, did they name the beast?
They're just the Gaj. Not a Gaj, the Gaj. We can say at this point probably is when Marilla, they get up to the top and they're able to, we'll say, catch Praetor Riser's eye.
I step outside the box.
Rachel Rice, how did you know that about the people with the masks?
One came to my house and tried to kill me.
Why would someone try to do that?
Oh, thank you for your confidence, Lex Marilla, but unfortunately, Praetors are the targets of firebrands, rebels, assassins, blackmailers, kidnappers, and many devious sorts, criminals, etc. I do not know if they were targeting me alone, but I have not heard of any other Praetors being murdered, so I fear it was myself. Don, have I heard of any other Praetors being murdered?
So whenever a Praetor is murdered, they have to have a special election. There was one about 7 years ago.
Okay.
But it's been a relative, for Praetor, on Praetor's terms, it's actually been a relatively peaceful 10 years. So not recently, no.
We've been spending our time murdering nobles from the patricians.
That's right. For House Akasha, it's not been so good. But for Praetors, it's going great.
Praetors, it's fine.
So I fear there is a plot afoot. How are you, Lex Marilla? I thought, did you receive my message?
Well, quite naturally I did, otherwise I wouldn't have known the masked men were a threat. Nor would I have been able to secure this from one of them. And I will hand over the receipt.
Ah. I have a look at it.
A simple receipt written on a leaf for a tavern exchange, but you see scrawled in a different writing in an Elvish language, just the words "sundown at the garden."
Dom, the Garden Gala, the political social event, when is that, and is that in the garden?
I mean, there's not a lot of gardens officially in Balic. Certain villas have their own gardens, but there is
Lots of
the
towers
garden
at times.
in some towers, right?
A couple of days, right?
Yeah, it's in a couple of days. It's at the Megalenion. The event takes place starting in late afternoon, and with the coming of sundown, you would know historically that's the point where people announce their intention to Caesar to run for a praetor office that they do not currently hold.
Sorry, at sundown, did you say?
Yes.
So the note says sundown the garden, and are we like as praetors and patricians and etc. Are we planning on being at the garden ourselves at sundown this evening or in a few days?
It's in a couple of days.
Okay.
Mm.
Could this, do I suspect this note could actually mean in a couple of days at sundown? Or is it
could be
obviously...
either.
Where
Could
did
be
you get
either.
this, Lux Marilla, may I ask?
From one of the masked men.
Well, you are the noble that just keeps on giving, aren't you, Lux Marilla?
Well, you have promised yourself to serve my house. It is the very least that I could do to help you in your enforcement duties. I mean, you are an officer of the law.
Of course, Lux Marilla. And I thank you on behalf of my office for this service you have done me. It is, of course, only my job to serve you and yours and the good people of Balic, and I shall strive to continue to do so.
Naturally. Are you planning to investigate the garden, then?
Most certainly, yes.
Good.
Do you wish me to keep this from your Lord Father, Lux Marilla?
Oh, well, should you think it would be relevant to my house somehow? Do you think they would be coming after us? It seems curious, then.
No, I simply do not wish to, how do I put this in a politic way, get you in trouble with your father. I'm happy to be discreet, etc.
Oh, well, I have no desire to keep anything from my Lord Father, of course. So if you think it's relevant, of course, tell him. Otherwise, I mean, I didn't do terribly much except recover a little receipt.
Yes. Is the person missing this, are they in the building?
Well, they were, at least at that time. They might have moved. Take a look. Point Rysar where I saw the exit where I appropriated this. I saw him over there.
And they're still walking around is what I'm asking.
Well, he was rather in the shadows a little bit.
Do I need a body disposed of is what I'm asking, Lux Marilla. No, of course not. Excellent. I was just checking.
Is that a...
Well, I work with a lot of people, Lux Marilla. And
surely no one would ever be so terribly corrupt.
No. Well, criminals are dealt with in whichever way Caesar Androponus deems them to be dealt with.
Naturally, but certainly those aren't the sorts of things that happen amongst the patricians.
No, absolutely. I'm sure you're most likely correct. Yes.
That receipt, do you think it's talking about the gala? Or do you think they might be planning an earlier meetup?
I plan on investigating that. This is a great service, Lux Marilla. I thank you on behalf of the city.
Of course, and if there's any way that I can serve the praetorship as a citizen of Balic, please do tell me.
If it were my choice, of course, I would say help in whichever way you choose. However, I fear your father's wrath would be significant. I do not wish to anger your house.
I would never dream of crossing him, only to bring him and my house glory. Of course, if this were related to the gala somehow, I suppose it would put, well, both of us in danger, both me and my father, and it would be my duty, as he charged us both, to investigate. It could be related to the spate of accidents my family experienced.
Well, Alex, Marilla, I would absolutely, I'm afraid, insist that you do not do anything like aid in an investigation which will take place this evening at nightfall at the garden, and every other evening at nightfall in the garden until the gala. I would be most disappointed if you arrived and assisted.
I would never do any such thing, my Lord Praetor.
I'm pleased we are in agreement. Shall we continue watching
I would love to. I take us
the
on.
game?
I'll let him escort me into the royal box.
The two of you return to where Tarek and Akasha and Kronkwall are, and the fight below it's continued on slowly. The Gage wraps its tentacle, that feather antenna, around the creature, the thri-kreen that it's holding up, and it feeds on that creature. It sprays that poison spray, Kronkwall, which you know is coming, and it does it, and the others scatter away.
Oh, there it is.
And they come back, and one at a time they move in, and they get some shots with throwing spears and jabbing. But the Gage sometimes retreats into its shell, waits, almost seems like maybe it's hurt, but it's not. Every time they get the confidence to get close and attack again, it snatches another one. And at this point, by the time Rysar and Marilla are returning, it's just one wounded thri-kreen skittering away on the arena floor below, and the Gage, 1 foot at a time, approaching it. All right, we are back. So, Marilla, you enter the box arm in arm with Praetor Rysar. You see Tarek. Has Marilla met Tarek before, do you think?
Most likely at the funerals, so we've certainly seen each other a fair few times. I don't know that we've directly interacted.
He steps away from the balcony as the fight's happening below, and gives you a little bit of a roguish bow and nods his head to Praetor Rysar, and he says, "Welcome. I hope you'll enjoy what's left of the fight. I am Tarek, head of House Jarko."
A pleasure. I'm Lix Marilla, House Akatia.
Lex Merla. Welcome. Please enjoy yourself and some of our food. As a matter of fact, we're serving Akashian olives today, so thank you, and you're a great house for that.
Oh, that is too good of you. Don't mind if I do. Partake just as gracious. So that belongs to you then? And I point at the terrifying murder creature.
Right, which is cornering the last of the thri-kreen right now. And he beams, like, he smiles a lot, but this is the widest, proudest smile that he's shown today. And he says, "Yes, I caught it myself."
Oh, goodness,
Beautiful
that must have been so
creature.
exciting.
Oh, it was.
You must tell me the whole story.
We go out House Jarko, and we take House Tumbledore ships all up and down the coast. And this particular creature hides in the dunes deep in the desert. There were 13 of us in our little crew. We took a caravan to the west, into the great alluvian wastes, and there we found it. I've heard tale of the Gage before, but I'd never seen or fought one, even when I was a gladiator. There were 13 of us when we started, and there were 3 of us when we finally subdued the beast. It was a long journey back, of course. We took proper precautions. But it did yet another one of us, a dear friend of mine, on the journey. Just the two of us. And now it's mine. Not a trophy, but a symbol of what House Jarko has accomplished for the great city of Balic.
And so much you have accomplished indeed, dear friend Tarek. May I inquire, how on earth does one go about subduing such a magnificent fiend for a journey back? Did you tie it up? Did you knock it out? If you don't mind me asking. I'm intrigued by this feat.
Its legs are vulnerable enough, the gauges, and when it is wounded, it will retreat into its shell. It can be caged like any other creature, and despite its considerable psionic powers, it does require touching a creature. You see those feathers there, and he points down as the Thrycreen actually managed to stand up and jab its spear right into the face of the Gauge, which causes this great hissing roar. The Gauge scuttles back and ducks down into its shell and then slowly extends its head and those three purple tentacles from its what would be its nose outward. You see those three feathers sticking up from the top of its head. It uses those feathers, those antennae, to feed. So as long as you don't get too close to it, you can keep it hungry. Feed it smaller creatures that you capture, enough to sustain it, but not enough to allow it to be strong so that it might turn on you. It was a tricky endeavor, but Intak is a great hunter, and he knows more about beasts that roam the deserts than I do or ever will.
Nonetheless, it sounds like it required both wits and bravery in tremendous measure. I suppose that must be rather a quality of yours. I heard you had a gladiatorial background of your own?
I think he notices Akasha, like he looks immediately out of the corner of his eye and notices Akasha rolling her eyes and says, yes, well, that's all in the past now, as are my days of going out and capturing beasts. I'm afraid I'm just a businessman now, and to the younger generation, may they find the glory that I once found.
When I was a gladiator.
Well, I wouldn't want to cross you in a business deal, Tarek. You, I am sure, are a far more formidable fighter than myself and many others, despite your proclamation that you are simply a merchant and the head of your house. And such a fine house it is.
I'm sure wits and bravery come in equally useful in business as they do in battle.
You're both very gracious. Please, enjoy yourselves. Praetor, I should go find Intak and check in with him. Is there anything I can do for you?
Absolutely not. You have been the most gracious host as ever, Taruk. Your house is one of the most welcoming I've ever set foot in. I thank you.
He bows again, and one last look back to Kronkwall. What is Kronkwall doing right now?
I think he doesn't know he's leaving. I think he's still focused on the fight. He's watching as the Thrycreen. How many are left? One?
Just one.
Yeah, he's watching to see what happens. He knows what's going to happen, but he won't admit it. But he's enthralled. He's watching. He's entertained. Though he's negatively entertained. He doesn't want to be. He's not having a positive experience, but he's entranced by the action that is happening down there.
For a few moments, Tarok is watching Kronkwall watch the arena, and that brings another small smile to his face. He turns, he bows, and he swaggers out of the royal box and into the hall beyond, disappearing, leaving just the four of you there together.
Can't be the only one that finds him insufferable.
I hate this place.
Oh, the way you were watching the fight, I thought you might be enjoying it.
No, it is gross. The sport involved in survival. Life begins and ends. But there is no reason to make a sport of it. Life is valuable. Watching people steal and spend it and squander their worth is nasty.
He cranes his neck around as he looks back at all of you, as he finishes his sentence, and he finishes his thought, and he assesses before he slowly turns back around and watches the rest.
As you turn back, as you make your point, you turn back, and you see that Thrycreen has climbed up onto the side of the wall. It's hooked its sharp long legs and its three of its forearms into the wall so it can actually hold itself up. So it's eye to eye with the Gaj, and the Gaj is click, 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 getting closer with every step. It's got its spear out. You can tell that the Thrycreen is tired. It pulls back its arm, ready to strike one last time at the Gaj. And it does. It strikes forward. The mandibles snap close. The beast crushes the haft of the spear, splintering it. It falls from the Thrycreen's hand, and those feathery antennas reach out. They touch the Thrycreen on the shoulder. They wrap around its neck, and you can hear for a moment, because of the Thrycreen's psionic abilities, natural inherent to their race, Kronkwall and Rysar, you can both hear for a moment, like an echo in the back of your head, the sound of that Thrycreen screams and then cut out. The crowd stands and cheers. The music plays loudly. The gate, the large beast gate, rises up, and one of those half-giants steps out, beating a drum. That Rysar, you would know that this is part of the ritual to draw a beast back into where it belongs. And almost to make Kronkwall's point, the crowd below, there's nothing peaceful about them. Just angry and bloodthirsty.
Disgusting. I don't like it here.
As he tries to, you hear like the knocking and the rattling of him trying to get out of the chair that he's in, because he's wedged or sitting propped right now between both of the arms of this wooden chair.
May I have some assistance?
I step over. I sort of first licks Marilla. Do you mind if I?
Yes.
So I disengage from Marilla, step over to Cronkwall and say, "May I assist you, friend?"
Yes.
He just grabs with like his big webbed mitt, grabs your shoulder, and he just and rocks himself up and I think out of the chair, and I think he lands on all fours for a second, and then he rights himself up.
Can we leave now? Is it
Pause.
over?
Yes, Cronkwall, you are a guest of honor in this place.
Thank you.
Looks Marilla, Lady Akasha,
Will you also be leaving with us now, or do you wish to stay?
Oh, yes, I think I am quite done. I have many important things to do, and I look up for a moment just to spot where the sun is, and then back to Rysar.
Mid-afternoon right now, brutally hot.
Well, yes, but I don't know what the weather is like.
Always sunny in Balic.
Mm.
I've been ready to go since we arrived, so anytime you are.
Oh, I'm sorry.
May I invite you to be my guests for a lunch? Mayhaps some drinks? Pleasant conversation after this unpleasant business.
Unpleasant. I would like that.
How could I refuse?
Oh, you met all of us?
Why, of course, Lady Akasha.
I would love to.
All right.
Then let us.
Sorry.
I'm
expecting
gonna
a
sort
butt.
of I'm gonna sort of gesture to the door and just be keeping an eye on any sort of masked figures I see around.
Roll me one more perception check.
No reason.
That's not a nat 20. I think that's a 12 with the modifier. Let me just double check.
Sure.
When you have to check the modifier, things are always going well.
Right.
Yes, 12.
Okay. Notably, when you look out over the crowd, you don't see any of the masked figures anymore. Either they've removed their masks or those particular people have left. You don't see any of them.
Lady Akasha, shall we?
Let us.
All right. So let's move forward a little bit. You leave the gladiator arena. You leave the Criterion. Where are you taking everybody to lunch, Praetor Rysar?
I think, in my mind, there's probably a fairly nice eatery, sort of upmarket inn or something, sort of on the edge of the arena district.
With outdoor seating?
Certainly.
Probably covered too. So even if it's outdoor, it's shaded. Right.
In the shade, yeah. And I think maybe there's something going on between the owner and Rysar. Like maybe someone's got some blackmail information or someone's bribed someone, but it's somewhere he knows he can get some good grub and be treated well and without having to dig into his praetor's wage too much.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that Rysar leans on some business folks in the area. So we'll say that you are sitting down at this nice eatery. There's people walking down the street. This is right on the border of the Guilders precinct and the arena precinct. So this is like the blue collar, like hardworking, kind of quiet but still very, very populated area of town near the gate, close to where you live, Rysar. And this particular eatery is known for the spiced rub that it uses on its make-a-lot steaks, which is a large beast of burnt and dark sun that governments and caravans greatly rely upon to travel across from city-state to city-state. And their steak is notoriously tough to cut and tough to cook, but they get it just right here, and the rub is perfect. And so you are served, each of you, the chef's special, which is fresh baked bread with a little bit of olive oil to dip it in, and then a full like 12 ounces of Michelet steak. And you have a large table to yourselves.
I have a suspicion that turtles might be vegetarian, so I sort of, before they come out, just glance at Cronkwall and say, do you eat Michelet steak? Melicot steak?
Oh, I will eat around it if it is presented, though.
So you do not eat?
I would rather not.
Ah, well, I'm sure the chef here is very good. I'm sure we can have something specially prepared. And I signal to the staff.
Thank you.
As he keeps his eyes on Rysar for a little bit longer, as he's really appreciating the moment.
The server who comes over to you is old. He's been working for his brother, who's actually younger than him, who does the cooking and owns the business. And he's kind of bent over. He's got a neck that kind of comes forward. This old, bald human who comes by at your beckoning, Rysar, and he says, "What can I do for you?"
Yanis, how are you, my good friend? It has been too long.
I'm very good with the ladies, my dear friend.
Always with the oversharing, Yanis. We would love to get 3 of your infamous, delicious steaks, please. And can you do something less meaty for my friend Cronkwall here? He does not partake of the flesh. Certainly not the red flesh. Possibly fish. Do we have fish in Balic?
What's a fish?
He looks over to Cronkwall appraisingly, and he gives you a very genuine smile, and he says, "What kind of food do you eat, my friend?"
Fruit, vegetables, leaves, salad. I'll have a salad if you have it.
Definitely not.
I'm afraid
Vegetarianism is a flex. Wow.
we don't have the money here for salad, but we do have some fresh fruit that we got just yesterday. It's still ripe. I can bring you some.
And this bread.
Of course.
He holds up a slice.
Does he eat like the entire?
Yeah,
because this is. I imagine
maybe close to
it's
the
like
whole
half
thing.
a loaf.
Yeah, like close to the whole thing, and leaves like a little bit, like a crescent of the crust, and then he goes back and finishes that.
Yanis,
I'll bring more bread.
Yanis, do send someone to fetch some salad for my good friend and honoured guest here, Cronkwall. And I take out some ceramic pieces from a pouch and sort of subtly, graciously sort of put them to him to sort of go and get some lettuce or carrots or something.
He picks them up off. He picks them up off the table and kind of jingles them in front of you, and he says, "It might take me a little while, but it won't be a problem, my lord. It won't be a problem at all."
Oh, thank you. Very kind.
Not at all. Thank you for your company, Cronkwall, and of course you did aid me significantly. Perhaps you saved my life that other week. Thank you, Yanis. You are, of course, as ever, a most gracious host.
And Giannis nods his head several times, bobbing up and down, and he turns and pockets the 2 ceramic pieces very quickly and goes through the doors into the building, into the back. You can kind of hear him yelling for a moment in the room, in the actual restaurant proper. You can hear what sounds like a very similar voice, but a little more forceful, a little more authoritative, yelling back at him. And there's like an argument going back and forth for a few moments, and then it stops. And you see Giannis exit through the front door of the little bistro out into the street, heading off, presumably to go find some greenery for Kronkwall. And as you're all waiting for your food to arrive and you all settle down for a nice meal here at the bistro, that's where we're going to move to take a little break, and we'll be back shortly. Everyone in chat, thanks for hanging out. As you know, we've got a giveaway going on, so check that out in chat, and we'll be back shortly with more fun.
Greetings, adventurers. Today we're excited to introduce you to a new story, Dark Dice, a horror podcast that blurs the line between actual play and audio drama, where the story is determined by the roll of the dice. 6 adventurers embark on a journey into the ruinous domain of the Nameless God. They will never be the same again. One of the players is not what they seem after a doppelganger, a creature that can assume the form and voice of whatever it kills, infiltrates the team. As the players are picked off and replaced one at a time, can they figure out who the monster is before it's too late? Can you? In addition to a full-blown fantasy soundtrack with over 30 live medieval instruments and a 40-person choir, sound effects further enhance the story. Here's a quick example of what that sounds like.
The shambler with the jar of liquid inside of him.
Soren Arkwright let loose an arrow that cracked the glass, passing through the spine of the creature. The shambler still managed to maintain its forward momentum, but stumbled as it eagerly tried to bite and swipe at Soren, landing near his feet. As Rowena struck the shambling creature near Soren, she shattered the canister in its stomach, sending its liquid contents spilling to the ground. With a rush of liquid, the small fetus fell too, twitching and moving toward Rowena.
I'm gonna punt you.
Rowena launched the fetus into the mouth of the mimic with a kick. So if you dare, gamble your sanity and subscribe to Dark Dice however you listen to podcasts, or on Spotify. Dark Dice can also be streamed at darkdicepod.com.
Ever since I was a child, I had to grow up on the streets, wrestling alley bears for food and fighting guards for my own freedom. It was in those streets that I knew I couldn't trust anyone but myself. The only thing for sure was that I had to find the monsters who put me there, to exact my revenge, and finally put my restless hunger for blood at ease.
So is that why you're standing in the corner of a tavern conspicuously?
That's something deeply mysterious and intriguing for you to find out. But I doubt you'd understand all the pain and suffering I've had to endure to...
All right then, I'll see you later.
Wait, no, you were supposed to be deeply interested and ask me more about my backstory. You know what? I'm tired of being another cog in the machine of an adventuring party. I'm going off on my own, following my own creed and doing what needs to be done. That's right, I'm going rogue. Do you get it? Rogues are the sneaky, savvy, skilly-willy utility monkeys of the Forgotten Realms, and the best pick if you're a backseat gamer since it lets you interrupt someone trying their best because they weren't doing it right. However, if you want to Mary Sue it up even more than you already are, you also get expertise so that you can upgrade those proficiencies to anime protagonist levels of ridiculous. Now I know what you're thinking, this sounds a lot like Bard, and while that's partly true, the difference is rogues aren't automatically assumed to be the comic relief. Instead, they're deep, dark, and brooding, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, holidays excluded because who could be grumpy on Christmas? The other main difference is their unique combat feature, the sneak attack, and because the names in D&D are always inaccurate, you don't actually have to be low to the ground and covered in shit to deal the sneak attack bonus damage, but rather anytime the enemy's just not feeling up to it today and just wants to get it over with. This means if the enemy's being flanked, or if they're laying prone on the ground, or they just bragged about how high their IQ is, you know, things that would make them really easy to stab. You are, incidentally, not very easy to stab since you have a whopping 4 goddamn features dedicated to make you more difficult to pin down than figuring out if that teasing banter you had with your friend actually hurt their feelings or not. You can dodge when it's your turn, dodge when it's not your turn, dodge a giant ball of fire, and even dodge having to pay the bill on a first date. One especially unique trait of the rogue is their exclusive language, Thieves Can't. Thieves Can't what? I don't have the slightest clue, because it allows you to say a whole bunch of jargon that somehow translates into a completely different sentence. Timmy's having tea with the local blacksmith actually means let's go to the temple and steal some of the cleric's donations. Speaking of stealing, the thief archetype means you're especially fast at doing thiefy things, like picking locks, chugging potions, and hardcore parkour. Assassin makes your stabs extra stabby, and you can stab while disguising yourself as a child you saw who you can point to later and say they did it. Arcane Trickster basically turns you into a bard, except less talented or attractive, and allows you to hocus pocus somebody's wallet from 3 miles away. Mastermind is straight up Sherlock Holmes, complete with the assholery and catchy theme music. Swashbuckler won't stop bugging people to 1v1 them. And Scout, which is yet another better alternative to Ranger. Your job is to make sure everybody knows how much better you are at doing everything. Because when the going gets tough, you know the party's going to turn to you one day and ask you to please pick the lock on the door to the king's castle because the bard accidentally kicked the guard in the genitals trying to seduce them. And you'll gladly show them all the skills you've learned from growing up in such a harsh and unforgiving environment that was once your home, forcing you to learn questionable means and morally ambivalent beliefs in order to survive. Just try not to cut yourself on that edge while you're at it. And now you know how to play rogue, you're welcome.
Hi, I'm Sam from Black Cats Gaming. We're a tabletop role-playing game company based in England, and we're kickstarting our first game, The Spy Game, which is a modern 5e action espionage RPG. In The Spy Game, you get to peer behind the curtain of society into the world of the agencies and take your place as a world-class spy. Together with your crew of con artists, infiltrators and hackers, you can take on global threats or become one yourself. The Spy Game is being developed using the 5th edition Open Gaming License for a modern take on a familiar fantasy gaming experience. You can choose from a whole host of new classes like the Face, the Infiltrator, the Hacker or the Technician, and you can use some incredible new gadgets, weapons and equipment. The Quick Start Guide is available now on drivethrurpg.com. We've almost finished our alpha version of the game and we plan to release the beta version of the game to backers as soon as the Kickstarter is over, so that the whole community can get involved and influence the development of the final game. We're starting the production of this game from the ground up, so please lend us your support and follow the Black Cats into a world of international espionage and adventure.
While anxious wives paced widow's walk, scanning the horizon, watching the sea, the warmth of the fireside guided their creaking ships past the ever-present lighthouses safely into port. Today as yesterday, these sentinels of safety bring gladness to the hearts of the homing mariners.
All right, we are back. So the four of you are on what amounts to be a small patio. The patio itself is empty, besides the large table that you're sitting at, this round table. There's some folks inside eating. People come into this place a lot of times just to buy their meat and take it home. They buy the rub, buy the meat, and they cook it themselves. There's activity out in the street as the guilders are going about their business. These are the people who do the stoneworking and the woodworking. They craft tools. And on the other side of the street is where there's several theaters visible, some of the smaller theaters in town where poets speak. And they're all tied to House Jarko. House Jarko doesn't control the Guilders district, but they do control all of the arts in the cities. So all of the musicians and bards, they have to be licensed through the house. The same house that controls the Criterion controls the arts. You're sort of here in this in-between space on a pretty busy street. And the Janos has gone off to go and fetch you some salad, something green. And in the meantime, you're waiting for your food, and it's just the four of you.
Merila's people watching. They aren't in this district very often at all, except the few times that they've been exploring, but this isn't really the part that they see very often, except for that one time. But we don't talk about that. They're very much looking toward the street.
What about Kronkwall?
I think Kronkwall is... I think he's eagerly waiting food, and he's just excited to be here. Kronkwall's very simple when it comes to this, and when it comes to socializing. He's just happy to be around people, and he's content if his friends are content. So he is just eagerly waiting for food. What do the chairs look like? This is important.
Yeah, so the table itself is made out of wood, and so are the chairs. They don't have armrests. They're they're almost like short stools with four wooden legs.
Yeah, so he's resting a little bit more comfortably here in this space, but I think he's content. I think he's still thinking about the Criterion, and I think we see he's just kind of every once in a while you see him kind of lose himself in his thoughts as he furrows his brow, and then he looks around for a bit, like he's looking for something, and then he catches himself and starts to pay attention to his friends again before he starts losing himself in another thought about the Criterion. But I think that's what he's doing.
All right. Rysar.
Rysar is looking quite in his element and quite relaxed as well. He's taken a seat against the building, so if we're outside, he's facing the street, so no one can sneak up on him. He also enjoys a good meal, as from his days in the deserts, food was oftentimes sparse. So being afforded the luxury to be able to sit down and have a meal prepared for you is a luxury in itself for him. So he enjoys that. He also is pleased about the company he's assembled. He is he's not so sort of enamored's the wrong word. He's not so taken by the interesting fact that Kronkwall's a turtle, but he is sort of quietly smug that he's sitting with a turtle in a sort of open plan restaurant, and passers-by would definitely be like, oh. And he's also very pleased to be with the Licks and the lady. And he is looking forward to talking to them.
And I'd say, like, right at that moment, there's a young Inix. This is a long, and they get much longer as they grow older, but lizard that's used to either be a mount or to pull along a cart. And this one is being ridden by a young man with long hair, unshaved beard, very unkempt. It's just sort of bouncing up and down as it crawls along the ground. It's pulling a cart of incense, and that waft of incense kind of hits you as it's passing by. And he just kind of looks to the side as he's passing by and stares at Kronkwall with wide eyes and just gives a little wave.
Hello.
Hello. The Enix keeps pulling him, and he turns back over his shoulder, still watching you for a moment, and then there's almost a collision outside, and he snaps back to it, and he pulls back on the reins and begins to steer the Enix out towards the street. Akasha, what are you doing right now?
I am just looking about back and forth and just mildly distracted.
As you're sort of looking around, Akasha, as everyone's gathered, it looks like Rysar is about to begin to speak. You hear a voice that you recognize speaking to you almost like it's in your ear. It says, "Why is it that you suffer, this vulture of a man, this skinny elf? Look at him."
Did you hear that?
What?
Are you okay, lady?
Is everything all right?
Understand. Is she all right?
Alex Marilla, when you left the box, did you enjoy the games? Did you meet anyone?
I made my way through the crowd a little bit, but not especially. There was someone who was, well, a touch forward, but that was no problem at all.
Oh, I hope no one was inappropriate.
Certainly not, and it
The
is...
whole thing was inappropriate.
And what, pray tell, are your opinions, if you don't mind me delving, Alex Marilla, on the games? Are you a fan?
Oh, well, I rather admired Lord Teruk's capacity to find that gauge, but, well, it didn't really strike me as a fair fight, did it you?
I certainly wouldn't have put my money on the unfortunate Thri-Kreen.
Are you a betting man, then, my lord Rysar?
When it's fortuitous.
That wasn't a fight, that's torture.
I agree.
I'd rather say torture usually takes a bit longer. However, I do agree it was certainly not fair sport. Absolutely.
How long has it been for the gauge?
How long has it been in captivity? The last time I saw it was a good few years ago, in fact. That was the first time I'd witnessed the monstrosity. I must say I'm...
Years torture. A length
Well...
of time long enough for it to be considered torture.
I must say it surprises me that you consider the guard to be the victim. Yes, it is in captivity, however, it is, without being distasteful, it is well kept, and unfortunately, however savage it may be, well fed. With the poor victims, it is put in front of.
You mistake my empathy. It's not the guard who is the victim, but it is those who stand on the sands themselves.
Yes.
You see, why must we pay, or they pay their lives to be tortured just for the cost of someone's entertainment?
Friend Cronkel, I fear, being an elf of principles, I cannot defend sport, as it is referred to, that I do not agree with or approve of or find entertaining. So all I can say is the standard argument that people such as the Terry will give, and House Jarko. But it is not my argument, and it is not my belief.
Surely it is quite a important aspect of your precinct, though, is it not, Lord Praetor? I mean, it is one of the largest facilities in this whole city, let alone the district.
It most certainly is, Lix Merilla, and that is why I would not voice these opinions to the general masses or in public conversation. However, as I consider you all noble and mayhaps even approaching friends, I am happy to give my honest and open opinion on the matter. Yes, it is important. It is very important for the economy of the area. Caesar Androponus puts great stead and has great pride in the arena. However, do I support or enjoy it? Morally, I do not support it, and I do not enjoy it, no.
Laguerre, as you're sort of half in tune with this conversation that's happening at the table in front of you, another voice speaks to you, just into your ear, a little more calm and serene than the other. My dear, they need you. But be careful of who you trust.
I think I trust the turtle. I think I trust the turtle. Turtle doesn't like torture. I think I trust the turtle.
Is Akasha speaking to a doll at the moment?
I think so, yeah.
Think so.
Are you okay, Lady Akasha?
I know. Why are you in rude? In the middle of a conversation. Wait, it's time to talk, guys. What is it? That one's probably doomed anyway.
Right at that moment, the Janos, the server who's taking care of you, returns with a platter of 3 steaks, 2 more full loaves of bread with dipping of olive oil, this time one of them sprinkled with some sort of pepper or herb, some sort of spice, and a bowl of what looks like somewhat wilted, maybe not the freshest greens. Probably not picked right from one of the villas on the south side of the city. But he did manage to scavenger up some greens. There's 2 pieces of yellow fruit with a hard shell. Think almost like it doesn't look like a pineapple, but think almost like that material of the shell of a pineapple. It's cut in half so that either halves are open and you can see the juices just kind of running out of the fruit. And his head bent over, he plops the platter down right into the center of the table, not aware of your conversation or anything else that's going on. And he's catching his breath a little bit, and he swallows and he says, yes, of course. And thank you, Praetor Rysar, for gracing our establishment with your presence. It's always such a joy to see you.
The joy is always mine, Giannis. Thank you for having us, as ever.
But of course, is there anything else that I can get for any of you? And he's looking between each of you in turn. His gaze does kind of settle finally on Laguerre. He kind of lingers there with a bit of a strange, confounded look in his eyes for a second. Then he smiles again and looks back to you, Rysar. Anything at all?
I believe we are all well served. Cronkwell, is this to your satisfaction?
As he's just eating off of the plate that's in front of him.
This is lovely. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
But of course, please, enjoy yourselves.
Thank you, Giannis.
He turns and waddles back into the restaurant proper, and a moment later you hear him yell out something towards the back of the restaurant, then you hear that other voice yell again, and for a moment it's a shouting match that lasts for 15-20 seconds and then quiet.
This is quite good.
It's absolutely wonderful. However did you find this place, Lord Praetor?
It comes with the territory, so to speak. It is a fantastic place. I very much enjoy it. I'm lucky to be a patron here.
I have a question. Is there a place within Balic that, which is instructing the way? I would like to train my mind a bit. Do you all know about the way?
Please tell us.
This way or that way?
That is a misconception. The way is not this or that, but within. A lot of the people wish to know where the wind blows and which way it goes, but they never think of where it's from, and that is within.
Turtle.
Uncle.
If I may ask then, Cronkwall, How did you learn or become proficient in the way?
You see, I traveled to become better as a protector of my people. And in my travels, I met someone who taught me the way. So I learned as much as I could by finding my center and knowing my nexus. And once you do, you could then hone the edge of your mind, to sharpen it like a blade. Though I do not like to fight, I try to forge this blade to be a shield so I can protect my people.
Your people like turtles?
Yes. My kin.
Did they travel with you?
No. I went alone. So I could be better.
When is the last time you saw them, then?
Months, weeks, it's hard to say. The sunrise and sunset on the Silk Sea begins to melt together. Perspective.
Do you miss them?
Very much. Yes, I do.
Do you think they would ever come here and join you?
No, I don't think they would. There are some of us who have traveled in exile. Maybe our paths will cross.
Exile?
Yes. My role amongst my kin was to be a part of the hatch guard, where we would protect the young, unborn turtles from their hatch site. And I chose to make myself stronger so I can fight, protect them. But in my travels, I wasn't protecting. So when I returned, I just saw smoke of my home. Something or someone, or for some reason, had burned it. But as the wind blows the smoke across the sky and through the silt, so it blew me to find you here. For it is the way that I walk.
Bronkwall, as you're speaking to them and sharing part of your story, you smell it again. The smell of fire burning up in the orange sky up above, clouds drifting lazily. You can see one of those clouds just at the edge of the corona of the dark, great sun that dominates the sky. Vaguely resembles the shape of a great two-legged lizard, a long neck and a pointed triangular maw. Then that cloud begins to break up and dissipate. That burning smell that touches your nostrils drifts away like it's being pulled from you.
This is delicious.
He shovels in another mouthful of leaves.
These actually are...
And he points to the tattoos on the creases of his body, elbows, the reaching through his shell, the tattoos of black flames.
These are my ancestors here, here, and here.
As he points to the tattoos around.
They are with me as I travel, guiding me, watching me.
Laguerre, you can feel the emotions, the state of mind of Nico, Aya, and Arda in your arms. One of them angry, one of them empathetic, sad because of the turtle's story, and one of them intrigued, almost hungry for more information. And that is Nico. And Nico speaks to you again just inside your ear as you're listening and watching. There is something important about the turtle's story, Laguerre. You should help him. He's so sad.
I don't want to touch the turtle. Space. Interesting. I could touch the turtle.
Cronkwall, your tail is...
I'm sorry.
He scoots and maybe you hear a as it goes under and between his legs now.
No, forgive me, Cronkwall, I do not communicate myself correctly. I meant the tail that you spoke, not the tail from your back. I was going to say, your tale is a sadder one, a tragedy that I've not heard in many a year, and I'm sorry for your loss, for the little that might mean from one who has known you as little as I know you. However, I do hope to get to know you better, and I feel this is a milestone towards, I hope, a friendship. You may be surprised to hear it is a tale not 1,000 miles from my own story.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, my people are still alive, although I am here and they are out in the desert. And interestingly, like you, although it is not my ancestors, I do bear the marks of my tribe, the knowledge, the stories of my elders. And Rysar lifts up a sleeve to show Cronkle, and only Cronkle, that he is also heavily tattooed, and it looks like dancing waves of sand. And then he pulls his sleeve back down again and says, "This is the knowledge of my village elders, shamans." It is strange to meet one with such a similar story as my own in such a different shell.
Well, the winds blow. And maybe this, when two winds meet at a mesa, they will then find the same canyon. Maybe the will of you and the way brought us together. We are not 1,000 miles from one another when it comes to our upbringing and our stories or our tales.
And I think if anybody's seeing, and if anybody's looking, his tail wags behind the chair. It was a joke only for Cronclaw. But if anybody sees it, you're also invited to laugh. As he kind of smiles to himself.
I think Rysal gives a little chuckle as he realizes that Cronkle is making a joke, pun about tails. And it probably bumps into his leg. Cronkle, there are indeed schools of the way in Balic. It is something I am interested in myself, although I fear I lack the mental discipline to follow it along the path that is required. But I would be happy to accompany you to a school and introduce you to some people there.
I would quite like that.
Lysar, you would know, and Akasha and Laguerre and Marilla would all know that the Cerebrin is one of the two major institutes of learning in Balic. The other is an even larger college. It's sort of the College of the Arts. But the Cerebrin is a smaller and very, very private school that studies the way and the will. Powerful psionics travel from all across the world, from other city-states, just to be able to have a chance to study there. It's not a for sure thing. There's a trial that one has to undergo, and no one who is not a student or a teacher can enter the grounds, which are, other than the Megalenion, which is the area protected around the White Palace, Caesar's Palace. It's probably the heaviest guarded area in the entire city. It's in the Gilders precinct, like on the far northwest edge of the city. That is the Cerebrin.
And Dom, with my studies, Would it be possible that I've done those by myself, or would I have had to, or most likely gone to the Cerebrum to learn?
So I think what's probably at your level, most likely, and you've been studying Rysar, studying the will and the way is sort of a newer pursuit for Rysar, right?
Well, he's always been, since he got to Balic, he's always been interested in it, and he's got the wild talent, and he's always tried to hone it, but it's always been unsuccessful until recent weeks.
Until recently. I might suggest this, and it's totally up to you. I love making up new elements of the character's backstory like this. But it might be that one of the powerful psionics that came to the city in hopes of studying at the Cerebrin, but for whatever reason, they failed the test, either through their lack of discipline or because they made a mistake. And now they're stuck in the city, indebted to the Cerebrin, paying off their debt. They probably offer private lessons. So it's not exactly the same thing as studying at the Cerebrin, but for those with an inclination or who want to sharpen their psionic abilities a little bit, you could probably find one of these black market teachers.
That's definitely Rysar's person.
Right?
That's sweet. Yeah.
So Rysar, let's say that you have an instructor that you've worked with, especially recently, that's kind of helped you start to turn a corner a little bit. And you would know that they're very bitter about the fact that they traveled. Let's see, where do we want to make them from? Let's pick somewhere fun. They came from other city-states. They came from Nibenay, the city of spires, which is probably like the second wealthiest of the city-states. It's right in the middle of the Tablelands, so it's not that far from Balic. But it also has a college of psionics, and many of its graduates will come to Balic seeking to further improve their abilities. So it's very expensive to apply and to undergo the testing, and so to apply and fail and then be in debt has sort of made your tutor embittered.
Black market guitar lessons.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing. So let's say that you have a Nibenay teacher.
Yes, Conquil, I would be more than happy to introduce you to those instructed in the way and knowledgeable, and take you to the Cerebrum, which is the college here.
Right.
I don't think they do drop-in classes, but we can always inquire.
Okay. I am much looking forward to that. More so than going back to the Criterion.
Of course, if it were not literally my job, I would much rather spend time in quiet ponderings and
why not
thought.
Make it your job?
In Balic, one does what one is told to do.
Oh.
If one is lucky, one does what one wishes. However, we all serve at the will of Caesar Andronicus. Long may he rule.
Long may he rule.
I think you hear from behind you, behind the table, Jonas's voice again. Long may he rule. And he comes over to refill your cups with more of this tea. He looks around at the plates. Has anyone not eaten their food? Has everyone finished their food at this point?
That's good food.
I think I'm still picking on mine.
He takes up some of the plates. What about Akasha? What about Laguerre?
Laguerre didn't eat. She talked the entire time.
So he goes around, he takes the empty plates, and He notices that Kronkwall is still working, so he passes Kronkwall by and he reaches.
Gingerly takes a leaf off of the plate.
I like the idea. Like Kronkwall just like stretches down to his neck. He doesn't even use.
He doesn't. He doesn't do much.
I love it.
Yeah, it's just.
And Jonas comes over to Laguerre and looks down and he says, "Is our food not to your liking, my lady?"
Why is he talking to us?
He
No,
is
I'm
your
not telling him it was
servant.
gross.
Did you think it was gross?
He's my servant.
Well, yes. For now, while you sit here, this is how this works.
How unfortunate.
He's unfortunate.
And Jonas just looks very confused as you speak to the doll and back, and he says, "My lady, is there anything I can do for you at all? Perhaps a walk or something to drink? Something else to your liking?"
Alex Merilla, perhaps we are approaching the time we should depart this wonderful establishment and take in some afternoon air.
Yes, I could certainly use a constitutional.
Yes. Kronkwall.
Yes?
Would you and Lady Akasha care to join us for a stroll?
I would love to. I enjoy, after eating, bathing within the rays and the warmth of the sun. So I would not mind going for a walk.
He means yes.
Would you like to come too?
You hear Aya's voice again. "Be kind, dear. They might be good friends to you. You'll need friends."
I'll go with you.
Lovely.
Yes. Lovely.
No, it's Laguerre.
I'm sorry?
What's Laguerre?
My name.
I thought it was Akasha.
Seconded.
I'm sorry, Laguerre.
No one asked. No one ever asked. Your friends, Tortle. Tortle.
Thank you.
Let's walk.
We walk.
So
he tries to hum along.
Janos goes ahead and leaves the what passes as a receipt, but it's all clear. You're all good. Your credit is taken care of here. And you are free to leave this little bistro. It's getting a little bit later in the afternoon now. And the streets are still busy, but they're starting to become less busy. The heat, as you step back outside, let's say, as we move forward here a little bit, is still vicious. But before, you wouldn't want to be caught out in the sun for more than an hour at a time.
For yourself, I would love that.
It's a little bit cooler now. The clouds have covered some of the sun. but it's still very hot. And the four of you are outside on the street. Let me know, what are your intentions here? Is there anything you want to accomplish this day?
Which way is the... Sorry, which direction is this cerulean... What was it? How was it pronounced?
After that wordplay at the table, I would have thought you would have asked which way the way was, Gronkwell.
Well, I was about to.
But you are wittier than I, so you decided to refrain.
That is it.
The cerebrum is...
Cerebrum.
Yes, this way. However, it is an institute of secretive learning. There are, as far as I'm aware, very stringent entrance policies. If you wish to study there, one must take certain tests, etc. If you will, I could take you to a friend who practices the way. He is not one of the great masters of Balic, however, he is a practitioner of no small amount.
Right. Lead the direction.
I'm happy to sort of start strolling with everyone to wherever this person's house is, or wherever they base themselves.
Back alley.
Yeah, let's say that it's back in the Harbor District in the maze, right?
Nice.
Like you actually have to go, and this is the same area that the four of you met in, where you saw the dead bodies, where you were attacked, Akasha, Cronkwall, where you found that room full of snakes.
Which we
this is
just
the maze.
closed.
Yeah,
Let's close that door. So this is the slum of all of the poor areas in town. This is the poorest. It's also where people hide when they don't want to be found by praetors, because it is, unlike the rest of the city, chaos. The streets don't make sense the way they connect to each other. It's very difficult. You can actually lose yourself for several hours in there and not be able to find your way back out to the main street. But Rysar, you know the direction to head in to reach this second story apartment. The first story is been boarded up and closed in, and there's like a set of back stairs you lead the rest of the group to. Is everybody going with Rysar? Okay. And so Rysar, you know the secret, like you knock 3 times, you wait until you hear 2 knocks in your head, and then you knock once in your head. That's the sequence to have them unlock the door. And as you do so, you can hear the door unlock. There's no physical lock that you can see, but you can hear a sound, and then the door swings open into this small apartment in the slums. And unlike the ratty buildings that are kind of falling down outside, the inside of this is actually fairly well kept. It's small, 2 rooms, a small kitchen, and a living room with a bed in one corner. But the drapes over the windows are silk. They cover all view from the outside. They do a good job of blocking out the sun with their multiple layers, and you can smell incense that's not unlike the incense you smelled that drove past you in that cart, just kind of filling up the air. It's a very overpowering smell, but after you become accustomed to it, it's a relatively peaceful smell. Not in like patchouli. So whatever you think of that smell. And the man inside is a broad-shouldered mall, so half dwarf, half human. Not as muscular as some moles, a little flabbier, and entirely bald, just like all moles and all dwarves. He's dressed in these orange robes that have a V-neck cut down the center that comes down to about his sternum. And he is sitting in the middle of the room, his legs crossed in front of him, his arms crossed over his chest, his head bowed. And as you step into the room, Rysar, you can see just this faint purple halo glowing around his head that kind of fades into the air and is gone as his eyes open up. And he looks at the four of you. He doesn't say anything. He just waits.
What's his name?
Let's see. Let's pick a good name here. For whatever reason, describing his house is easier for me than picking his name.
Hello.
He says into his mind.
Let's call him Kylantes.
Kylantes. I don't know how the way works. I guess if Cronqual says hello telepathically, then I won't hear that. So,
unless he wills you to also hear it, yeah, that's correct.
I think.
So
I don't think Cronqual thinks that far ahead. I think he's just like, oh, this guy's probably it. So he tries to say hello to him in his mind because now he thinks that he has to be tested.
I also use the way to greet. I assume it's now the done thing to greet telepathically. So I say, good afternoon, Master Kylantes.
The two of you, as you speak telepathically, will hear just the sizzle of what sounds like almost like the sound of cooking, and feel a warmth in your head. It's a welcoming warmth. It's not a word, but it's a temperature.
In your mind.
In your mind.
Yeah.
Thank you for your hospitality, Master. I bring a potential student of the way.
Hello.
He says out loud.
He stands up slowly, one joint, one leg at a time, moves both of his arms just to rest on his gut, and manages just a tight-lipped smile. He looks beyond Cronqual and Rysar to Marilla and Akasha. I'm curious, what are Marilla and Akasha doing? Are they coming in? What do they look like right now?
Marilla's a little bit curious about this. They've never had any proficiency in any of this sort of thing, but they do want to at least see what it's like. But now that they are in here and it seems like things are silently happening in some way that they cannot fully detect, and their social graces are effectively useless, they are stood with a bit of a tight smile, and one of their hands has gone up the sleeve of their robe and seems to be just gripping their wrist very tightly as if trying to cover something with their hand.
What about Laguerre or Akasha?
She's just kind of quietly watching Marilla and discussing her out loud with her dolls and just kind of analyzing them.
Is she analyzing them loud enough that they can hear, or is it like whispering into the dolls?
Very blatant. Not malicious.
Yeah.
Not malicious, but just...
You know what she's talking about.
They always seem like they're up to something.
Master, allow me to introduce Lady Akasha and Lixmerilla. I am sure you have heard of the noble houses Sereno and Acacia.
Yes, but of course I have. Please come in. I am Kylantes Sah Nibenay. What can I do for you today?
No, I am Kronquall. Kronquall is I. I am looking for guidance in the way. For I have had a walk within a way dream recently, and I would like to know what it is that I seek.
His expression changes. It's one of slight skepticism, but also this just sort of natural calm that he keeps despite that. But when you mention the way dream, there's a flash of maybe confusion, maybe interest in his eyes. And he says, if you are untrained in the way, how is it possible that you have had such a dream?
Oh, I am not untrained.
As I think at this moment I've got my staff out. Just because I've been walking with it, and I think as he says, I'm not
untrained.
I think he lets go of the staff, and it's still standing where it was. And then he just clasps his hand in front, and the staff is still standing there.
Perhaps you would all like to come and sit down there on the pillows, and we can speak together. I will tell you what I can, but of course you know that if it is training, you'll see. Well, I do not give these away for free. I cannot.
Looks reassuringly towards Rysar. Question.
Of course,
sorry.
Master, I would not bring someone to you expecting anything for free. Kronquall is a close friend, and in this matter, his debts are mine.
Very well then. Why don't you all make yourselves comfortable? And as he sort of gestures for these large body pillows that are just sort of thrown about the room, the door that you entered from gently closes.
I love this guy. Please come in.
He walks around. He walks around and he'll close even tighter the drapes over the windows so that the sunlight from outside becomes even dimmer and the room becomes darker. And he lights a little lantern, brings it in from the kitchen and sets it down in the middle of the floor. He sits down cross-legged in front of that lantern. During that time, what does everyone do? We'll go around in a circle. Let's start with Akasha.
Laguerre's just kind of watching everything. Just watching everyone come back and forth and a little confused. But mostly she's staring at Marilyn and wondering what they're up to.
Let's jump over to Marilla. What is Marilla up to?
Merula's been very visibly chewing on some kind of notion ever since the Kylantes, the tutor, mentioned that people unschooled in the way should not have way dreams. And
I don't know if we've discussed it yet, have we, as a group?
Oh, no. We have not. Therefore, are they silently chewing on it because they are not fully comprehending of the nature of such things, and if they did, if their new friends wouldn't just look at them like, what? But they're also aware of being watched and seemingly a touch uncomfortable in this place of telepathy, and now that they are seated are looking around it, but also playing with whatever's around their wrist as a nervous tick.
And Kronkwall?
Kronkwall has waddled his way over to the pillows and drops the staff. The staff floats down gently, and then he goes in for an aggressive landing onto the pillow. And then he, kind of as he settles for a bit, he cranes his neck up and anticipating, and I think with more of like excitement in his eyes, which is in a complete contrast to what the mellow mood he was in earlier in the day. I think he's way more in his element here, and that's visibly easy to see.
What about Rysar?
And I think perhaps normally Master Kylantes and Rysar have something more of a transactional arrangement, but because of the group setting, I think Rysar is, at least on the surface, showing a certain amount of deference to Kylantes. And of course, Kylantes has powers that Rysar wants, and also that he wants his new friend Kronkwall to have. As Rysar sits down, he's going to focus on his nexus, and he is going to send his psychic sandy tendrils into the brain of Lix Merila to send a message and gently say, "Forgive the long silences. If you wish to leave at any time, simply say so. I do fear for Lady Akasha's well-being."
Merila does not say anything aloud in response, and in fact does not have any sort of capacity within the way to do so. But Rysar could certainly see them shake their head very gently at the notion of leaving, but smile a bit of a tight smile at the notion of maybe Lady Akasha isn't okay. They're also a little concerned.
That point that you would all see him come back in with that lantern and set it down on the floor, and he sets back down just like he was before, cross-legged, his hands just kind of gently, restfully placed against his gut. He stares not at any of you directly, just sort of back against the wall where shadows from the lantern are dancing. And he says, "Before I can tell you how I might help you, you must tell me about this dream."
took place far across the Silp Sea in a foreign land, full of dangerous flora, and there were monoliths of iron, rusted crimson with time. There were rivers of chasing fog, and a curious looking portal to a different land within these crimson structures. There were also my friends there, both Akasha and Merula.
As he kind of nods to each of you.
On this walk, I traveled a path that led me to a giant, half-giant, who was weeping over their companion. What does it mean?
You have to tell them, Kylantes, about the egg, too. You can't forget the egg.
I want to say, too, as this is going on, with his description, the shadows against the back wall begin to move upward. They stretch up the wall. And as he's describing elements of this dream, you can see them cast against that wall. And not just shadows without depth. There's depth and a little bit of color to them. They're not quite there. They're not quite pictures, but there's something between shadows and pictures that all of you can see. Bryce, you would see also, when he says my friends, you would see Akasha and Marilla and Kronkwall shadows leave their bodies and move up against the wall and join the rest of that sort of shadow image on the wall. Your shadow, Lysar, does not move.
I think as we get back to as Marula says the egg and mentions the egg, I think Kronkwall opens his eyes a little wider and then kind of looks towards Marula, surprised.
Yes. There also was an egg from my people that I retrieved from the chasing fog. And I gifted that to my new half-giant friend.
You see that Kronkwall seems to be thrown off, both by the surprise of Marula knowing about the egg and knowing about this dream, and two, also thrown off because he, in his mind, was testing this tutor. What's his name again? I have to write it down now.
Kylantes Sah Nibenay, which means from Nibenay.
So as he, so I think Kronkwall was also surprised because he was testing Kylantes about what it would mean.
Kylantes is quiet while you go through the memories and they play out on the walls. A couple of times he clicks his tongue to the roof of his mouth. A couple of times he takes a sharp inhale of breath through his nose. And then he speaks, not in his mind, but to all of you, so that all of you can hear in the same way. He says, yes, I see it. The pyramid.
Yes. What?
The things from the pyramid. You can see him start to hyperventilate. All of a sudden, you can see worry touch his eyes, take his face. His body bows over. He looks back up to the shadows on the walls, and you can see cast along the walls these squirming lines moving away from the shadow of the pyramid. You have brought it back. You have brought it back with you.
Brought what back with me? What?
They are coming. They are coming. Right now. You can hear a scream from outside.
Rysar is on his feet.
Merula as well, with incredible dexterity.
So he goes to stand up.
I want to go and look out a curtain.
Rysar, you pull back the curtain and the sun hits you in the face. It just takes a second to your eyes to adjust from the dark to the light outside, to look down. And below in the streets, now? It's not it's like late afternoon. Okay, it's not sunset yet. Out in the streets, you can see people scattering away and a mass of white-robed figures with hoods over their heads marching down the street. Rysar, you see that on the back of each of their hoods is just the black symbol on white of a lidless eye. And you know that this is the symbol of the Cerebrin, the College of the Will and the Way. And at that, as you're like looking down and you're all getting up and getting ready, Kylantes stands up and kind of stumbles away weakly. He leans to grab something, a table to hold himself up on, but he trips over and he knocks over the table and hits the ground. You can hear him gasping for air as these figures turn left, right towards the stairs that lead up to the building. But that's where we're going to end our story.
Nice.
I'm scared.
Yay.
I'm excited. This is going to be sweet. That was really cool.
Man, so thank you all very much. I love this session. I just want to say this is not what I anticipated today being at all. I thought we were gonna like have a little moment and then go forward in time. But I think I said this while we were on break, but this is sort of the Dark Sun, like Balic equivalent of like a campfire episode with all the characters sitting down and learning more about each other and figuring out like how they connect. Oh, I'm back. And I loved it. I loved it. I thought we learned a lot about the characters and the characters learned a lot about each other. And just to sit back and watch you all role play with each other for most of the session was a real joy for me. And I enjoyed the juxtaposition tonight of the Criterion and the brutality there to like this little, this little cafe, this little bistro.
Yeah.
And like everything in D&D, we've gone off to the left, and we'll take all the time we need to explore what we want to there. But I'm really excited for next week and to continue to explore a little bit this direction. Thank you all for being amazing role players. Everybody in chat, thank you so much for hanging out tonight. And I think we'll be doing a giveaway. We'll be posting about it here soon to let you know what's going on with that. But I want to go around before the end of our show and just have everybody say hello. What's going on in your life, anything you want us to know about what you're doing, what you're up to, whatever you're feeling for tonight. And let's start with Cord.
That was great. I really enjoyed that a lot. I was a little nervous getting back into it tonight because we had a week off last week, so I was like, all right, I was just out of the groove of it. But once again, as soon as I got back into the call and got to hang out with all of you, it snapped right back into place. So thank you for being so wonderful and great players and great people. And thank you, chat, for being here and hanging out with us. My name's Cord, or Mythomatic. You can find me on twitter.com/Mythomatic, where you can see what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. I do a bunch of things throughout the week. I stream on my channel once and or twice a week, so you can check that out. I do a lot of cinematic. I do role play within Star Citizen, and I try to do and produce a cinematic immersive experience. So if that's something that you're enjoying, check it out. There should be more. There should be lore videos soon on YouTube, so that'll be cool. I also do a lot of role play throughout the week on other channels. Like I said, follow me on Twitter, and you can find when I'm doing it, or see what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. Thank you very much. This was great. I can't wait for next week, and I'm liking Dark Sun more and more, and I've already liked it so much already. So it's really fun to sit down and live within it for a bit. So thank you, Don, and thank you, everybody. It was really cool.
Yeah, thank you. I love every time we get to add a little bit more to the setting and into the characters, because there's the stuff that's Dark Sun, and then there's the totally new stuff that each and every one of you are bringing to it that has never existed before. And that, I love saying that. I love it. So thank you, too. And let's go ahead and move on to Christina. Hi, Christina.
I'm unmuted. Hi, my name is Christina Ariel, and you can find me on Twitter because I'm out of jail at KRYSTINA ARIELLE, Christina Ariel, where right now, because we're quarantined and junk except for that train apparently, I'm doing Hamilton from my living room. So if you are into that, you can see the first one yesterday, and as long as this thing lasts, I'm gonna keep adding them. Hopefully I don't get to act 2, but we'll see. But anyway, I'm super excited about it, and you can find me on the interwebs because that's basically where I live.
I love the idea of Hamilton from your living room. I really love that idea. And we didn't really talk much because about the quarantine, because we jumped right into the game today. But I want to say to everybody, I think it's incredible everything everybody's doing to create more activities for people to socially engage online. And so in playing D&D online with people is never, it's never been easier before than it is right now. And there's a lot of great
talking
people
about D&D in Discord is also pretty sweet.
Yeah. So you can do that on anybody's Discord, but you can do it on our Discord. You can talk about pickup games and try to get into a game with people. I'll post it here at the end, but I have a solo adventure that you can play by yourself. I just made it free for everybody. I took the price away while we're dealing with this thing. You can play it with yourself. You can play it with a friend. It doesn't require a dungeon master. It's a very good way for new players to learn, and a lot of people are doing things like that right now to help people out. So thank you to everybody who's trying to get games going for other people and trying to provide ways for us to stay connected in this time, because that's what all of us need right now.
And be nice to each other and yourselves, because it's very easy when you're isolated. Trust me, I've been on maternity leave and that shit's isolated. It's very easily when you're isolated to get lonely and sad. So, and don't feel like you're bothering people, because I know I have a bad brain that always says if I try to reach out to somebody that they don't really want to talk to me, so I don't. So ignore that voice and do the thing anyway, because we need to stay connected even though we're separated. and just be nice, and especially be nice if you have to go to the grocery store, because those people don't make enough to deal with your shit.
Let's go on and let's say hello and good night to Toby. Hi, Toby.
Hello and good night. I'm Toby Osmond. I am on the socials. I think Twitter, I'm at Toby Osmond. Facebook, I'm at Toby Osmond Actor. Might even be at Toby Osmond Actor on Twitter. God, I'm useless at promoting myself. On the gram, I am Mr.T.Osmond. Follow it all. And shout out to Adventurers Wanted, who are the other streaming crew that I regularly play D&D with, and also John Carter of Mars, which is the Don, you're doing the Fallout with the same system, I believe, the 2D20 system, which is a really interesting, fun system. I think there's a Star Trek game which also uses it, actually.
They've got Star Trek and Conan. They've got like a Conan the Barbarian. It's very cinematic. That's its goal, is to be a very cinematic system.
Come on, give me the sword. Onto the sword chopper. Yeah, that's my Arnie. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Today's session was give me the chopper. I mean my claymore, which is a type of sword. Anyway, you all know that, D&D fans. So yeah, today was a pleasure. Well, tonight was a pleasure because I'm in England. It's actually 3:45 in the morning here, but it was a really fun one. Yeah, from brunch to the psychic police. I don't know. I'm terrified, but it was really interesting. It was really interesting doing that. The sort of political socio game that sort of, especially with Lix Marilla. Use Lix, by the way. It's a great term that we invented, Sam and I. So when it's famous, make us famous too. Yeah, it was really fun doing that and sort of saying, even when I did the Sonic message, knowing that Marilla would just be like, oh yes, and that's enough. It's like, oh yeah, that speaks like 3 sentences in etiquette talk. And and having the fun with Cronquil as well, like with the steak and stuff. I myself am a vegetarian, so I was like, no, you're not going to eat around it. But yeah, it was really fun discovering more about Rystar as well, and meeting Laguerre as well. Yeah, it was all really fun. Very good session. Thank you, Dom. Thank you, fellow players. Thank you, chat.
Thank you too. Yeah, I'm excited about next week. This is a storyline that I thought, I figured at some point we'd go to Cerebra and start to get involved with like the psionic stuff, but I don't care when. It's my favorite. Like I've said it before, like psionics are one of my very, very, very favorite things about D&D, and specifically Dark Sun psionics are a lot of fun to explore. So that'll be cool. Let's go down. Hi, Sam.
Hello. I'm Sam Delev. You can find me on Twitter at Tchaikovsky, ChaiKovsky. My streaming schedule is shockingly consistent. I'm very lucky that all of the channels where I work have moved to remote streaming, so you can catch the series finale of Battle Lords of the 23rd Century tomorrow on Q Times at 6:30 p.m. PDT. I am still on A Darkened Wish, the canon D&D series on Twitch D&D, based on the comic from IDW, written by B. Dave Walters and drawn by Tess Fowler. You can also catch the season finale of Long Beach by Night, our Vampire the Masquerade game, on Q Times Sunday at noon PDT. And just, I love this game. I love this game so much. I love doing the intrigue in this game. Actually, if you enjoy 2D20 and Star Trek, you should come catch it Mondays for Clear Skies, the Star Trek RPG show I do on Q Times, where I am the captain of this very well-ordered ship full of very well-ordered people. Am I enabling their mischief? Yes. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. It's a great time. The privileges of rank. But I just had I have such a great time with this game every week. I enjoy getting to explore more and connect a little bit more with the characters I've gotten to interact less with. Just I love Balic just constantly creeping Marilla out in just the best way, and I love learning more about Crunkle, and you know I always love my best buddy Rysar. We're best buddies. All this closeness and politeness and like cooperation is definitely because we're best buddies.
And not going to ultimately be the death of one another. Right. That's not how this story ends, right? No.
Never.
I've never pushed anyone out of a tower.
No one said anything about a tower.
That was really specific. Yeah.
What tower? What?
Oh man. All right, friends, thank you so much for hanging out. Please follow these people, check out their games, the things they're working on, all of their creative projects. They're amazing, amazing people, and I'm very glad to get to play this game with them every single week. I can't wait for next week. I want to say before we go, please go and check out our sponsors. They make our show possible. That's Level Up Dice, Wormwood Gaming. We've got some other things in the work that we can't talk about right now, but we do have a giveaway going on right now in chat. Stick around through the credits. We're going to be posting the results of that giveaway in chat. And just one more time, please, friends, take care of yourselves. Take care of the people in your lives and around you. Have some fun. Stay
Wash
connected.
your hands.
Wash your hands, please.
Wash your hands.
And we will see you all next week.
Drink water. Don't forget about drinking water.
Dirty.